Hi everyone, welcome to our event. This event is brought to you by Data Talks Club, which is a community of people who love data. We have weekly events, and today is one of such events. You can check out more events that we have in our pipeline. There is a link in the description. Go there, check it out. Already today we have one more event, which is about a launch of our hackathon that we have for the summer. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, and if you want to build something with AI, check it out. Of course, do not forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. This way you'll be notified about all the future streams we will have. And last but not least, we have an amazing community, Slack community, where you can hang out with other data enthusiasts. During today's interview, you can ask any question you want. There is a pinned link in the live chat. Click on that link, ask your questions, and we will be covering these questions during the interview. And right now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Another thing is like this was supposed to happen actually last Monday, not this Monday. So thanks, Lior, for accommodating. I was sick, so I just slept all Monday. Now I'm back to normal. So actually I ran yesterday, so I'm fully functioning.
That's good.
Yeah. So
How much do you run?
I'm preparing for a marathon, so I run a lot.
So no, forget about me. My max is 9K, and this is more than enough for me, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, like for me, it was a little yesterday. It was 30. It was exhausting, but anyways, like I don't know why I signed up for that.
You have to do it at least once in the life, I think.
Yeah, so I signed up for the lottery. So there you have a lottery, and I was kind of hoping I will not win, but then at the end I was selected. Yeah, so I
Good.
have to prepare. Anyways, let's start. So this week we'll talk about mindful data strategy and how teams can shift from building pipelines to delivering real business outcomes. And we will look at how principles from the Zen philosophy can help teams work more intentionally and effectively. We have a special guest today, Lior. This is not the first time we have a conversation. Last time we spoke a few years ago, more than 2.5, primarily about hummus, if I remember. I
Yes.
don't remember other things. Funny thing is, today I ate hummus. The one from Reve, probably you will not approve. I don't know. What's your opinion about hummus?
I'm already disappointed.
But this is at least some hummus. Like it's better than no hummus, right?
Yeah.
So Lior is a data strategy consultant, former practitioner. Why former though? Maybe you'll tell us. And the author of Data is Like a Plate of Hummus, which is why we talked primarily about hummus last time. He developed the Data Existing Vision Board and the Data Product Lifecycle Manager, frameworks designed to help teams move from reactive tasks to more strategic long-term thinking. Welcome.
Hi, happy to be here. I think the
Yeah.
last time we also discussed about something very similar to this topic about efficiency in teams structure. So how to make sure the communication is working well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I think when I was doing that interview, I was actually a practicing manager. So let's see how much of the things we talk about today will resonate with me, and let's see if I actually was able to follow your advice. But let's start with your career journey so far. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so in the past year, I'm more working with small scale to medium sized companies, trying to basically write down my second book. So when we spoke the last time, we spoke about my first one, which was Data is Like a Plate of Hummus. And I'm working on a new book, which is more taking the strategic aspect of data. And I think that this is where I am today. Before that, I was working at Idealo. I was the head of product for the data platform team. Just before that, I was basically launching my own company, Tell About Data, which the entire idea behind it was create the infrastructure and the tables in an automatic way, which will save a lot of cost for small companies that don't have the scales and the ability to hire the engineers. And before that, I was working for Zalando, leading there basically the entire marketing data operation from the product perspective. So setting up basically the infrastructure, first time ever to have an infrastructure for data instead of having a horrible Excel sheet and Pythons that breaking every week that you need to run them. And then we moved to ROI forecasting, creating basically a better understanding of data, and then ended up in the marketing automation part of how do you actually steer the budget of the campaigns and making the best decisions. So this is more or less my historic path. And today I'm practicing a lot of mindfulness in data, and I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation today.
Mindfulness of data.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're more like a product person, if I got from your self description.
I started my career actually as an engineer. I wasn't
Okay.
as good and I wasn't as fast as the other engineers. I must admit it. I moved more towards the analytics side, and then I found myself somehow in product something like 7, 8 years ago. And
Mhm.
since then, I'm staying in the product area. I'm very technical, so if you're going to ask me questions about tools, I will be able to evaluate them, architecture as well. But my passion is really to bridge the gap between the business and the tech, I think, and actually bringing everybody together.
Mhm. This is not one of the questions we have prepared for you in advance, but I recently saw a question in one of the data science communities, and the question was from an engineer. He was asking he was asking the community to recommend him some resources about product management. If so, do you have any suggestions for somebody who works as an engineer or data scientist if they want to learn about product management and the product side of things? Do you have any recommendations for them?
I will be honest. There is the Product Camp Berlin that is once a year. If somebody is interested, and I know they're doing it a tour all over the world as well. But there is something specific for data practitioners, because I think this is very different than the regular product. If you're learning product, it's a lot about users and communication, which is very important for us to be able to know. But there is nothing specific yet that I'm aware of. But I would love to learn if somebody finds something as well.
Product camp. Is this the people? Because I remember attending a workshop when I was still at OLX. I think it was Mind the Product, something like that.
This is also another one. There is also buzzwords that is also happening somewhere in June, I think, usually, that also connecting tech and data together. So there is different ways to learn it. But for product, specifically for data product, I haven't encountered anything.
Mhm.
Maybe this is something I can do next.
Yeah, after this the current book, right? Which
Yeah.
what is the title? Do you have the title already?
I have a temporary one for now. It's called
Yeah.
Wabi Sabi Your Data. Uh,
What can I say it again slower?
Wabi Sabi Your Data, which
It's
is
like wasabi, but
basically it's a Japanese concept about basically accepting the imperfections. So the perfect imperfections, basically. And this is basically what I think about data. This is a lot of my philosophy about how to handle data. It's imperfect, and we need to accept it. And we should not fight always to have it perfect before we going forward. And I think this is one of the biggest issues that we going through today.
I see where the mindfulness part comes from.
Oh
The
yeah.
acceptance, right? So don't fight it, accept it, right?
Be aware of it, accept it, and
Mhm,
communicate it. I think this is if we need to take a core out of this conversation today, is be aware, accept it. This is the reality, and make sure you're communicating it correctly. And
mhm,
I think that this is my biggest learning from leading a lot of data initiatives and failing many times as well.
mhm.
And I think that we always expecting to have this perfect product. We always in the hunt for the perfect product, the next technology, the next thing, the next, always something next. And actually, we should sometimes stop and accept the reality.
So how do we do this?
Oh, that's a great way. So when we starting and we're talking about it, let's talk about the trust crisis, right? So
Mhm,
I think that there are there is a very big trust crisis right now in the industry. I saw a research a few weeks ago that 97% of the CEOs mentioned they're using data, but only 24% said that they are data driven. This is already saying something to us about the difference in how data is being used in the organization and how it's being leveraged. And there is a data trust. We launching products. Yes, we have data governance. Yes, we have monitoring. Yes, we have a lot of tools around it to make sure that data arrives to the users safely. But in the reality, the data or the people who are using this data don't trust it. And they basically, this is where the crisis starts. And this is why we need to be aware of it. We need to be aware of where the flows are. So data will never be perfect. It's enough that somebody changed one tab in the data that's being ingested into the data warehouse, and everything can break. And we need to learn here how to communicate it better. And the fact is that we looking at many issues right now that related to the trust of people in the data. I don't trust the data team because they're in constant migration. I don't know. I have a CEO I spoke to now, and one of the things that still resonates with me or still stuck in my head is like, he has the data team in the past 3 years running from migration to migration. Each migration taking them 6 to 8 months, everything is getting stuck. And this is a loss of trust in the data team. And sometimes we are not even aware of it. We don't even see the issue because we're trying to achieve a goal, but during the attempt to achieve it, we're actually missing some of the components that need to be there.
When you mentioned the trust crisis, what came to my mind was I have a son. He's 9 years old, and he likes to use ChatGPT. He speaks with ChatGPT a lot. And ChatGPT, as we all know, hallucinates. Sometimes it comes up with things that do not exist. So he was like, "Why should we pay because I have a premium subscription?" He was like, "We pay this tool, we pay them 20 euros or something like that, and like it outputs garbage, it outputs nonsense. How can we trust? How we can ever trust what it says if sometimes it hallucinates?" But then I say it's my objection to that was it's actually a very useful tool because most of the time it's correct, sometimes it's not. You just need to, how to say, cook it. You like cook metaphors, right? You just need to cook it correctly, and we just do accept the fact that sometimes it hallucinates, sometimes it does not provide the correct answer. So we just need, we must not blindly trust whatever it says. We need to always double check. But overall, it's quite a useful tool, and if we use it, it is super convenient. It makes our life easier. We just need to be mindful of the fact that sometimes it may be super wrong. Right? But it does not mean we shouldn't stop. We should not continue using this tool, right? Because it's super useful. So I was explaining it. I was also trying to explain how this the model the underlying model works. That it's a language model. All it does is trying to predict the next word, and then people noticed with time that it's actually something useful. How about we start using it? Because most of the time the output is good, and sometimes it's not. So I think it's maybe a very interesting example where there is a trust crisis because the tool is useful, but then it was wrong a few times, and then it's useless. Like we should stop using it. While it's not the case. Like it's a useful tool. We just need to be accepting of the fact that it might be wrong sometimes.
Correct. And I always explain it, and I say also data is like a Lego bricks. Okay, we can connect and we can build a lot of buildings inside it. Sometimes we're falling on a fake Lego brick that we bought from not Lego themselves, but some other generic brand that looks like
So
Lego.
guilty of that.
And it's not connecting. It's not working well, right? It's not sitting there as it should. And that's exactly the problem with data, right? So we're building a castle out of Lego bricks. And sometimes some of these bricks not going to be the original ones. And this is something we're going to fill in the rest of the construction. And it happens. We cannot change it, right? And maybe we even need this brick because we don't have enough original bricks,
Mm-hmm.
because we want to build a very big building. But we need to find the right balance on between how much we're willing to trust and invest in having the bigger picture, so this huge castle, or how much we're saying, okay, now we are stuck and we're waiting until we find a replacement for this brick, which can take now another week until we're going to order it, until we're going to receive it, and until we can open the package. So this is something that we need to be aware of.
Yeah. Has it actually happened to you, like the Lego brick thing?
Yes, my kids have huge box, and they had one that was supposed to be Lego, but it wasn't Lego,
Uh-huh.
and it didn't connect, and they were sitting there frustrated trying to connect it to something.
Okay. Because what happened to me, I don't know if you're into Lego. I had this Millennium Falcon, which is like one of the biggest Lego sets you have. And then a part was missing. So I had a choice whether to go to a store and buy not an original one or wait for 2 weeks till they sent a replacement. So I ordered a replacement because it was free. But then I went to a store and then just bought a part. The part was not actually fitting. It didn't fit, so I had to use my like a saw. Like I had to like manually adjust it to make it fit. But then at the end it worked. So by the time when the part arrived, I actually had the entire set assembled.
That's
So
cool.
yeah. So it didn't fit, but like with enough perseverance, yeah, I managed to make it work.
I will take it. I will keep it for the next time, maybe for the next crisis.
Mhm.
But again, this is the same as
I like
data,
the
right? When you think
metaphors.
about it,
Yeah.
we sometimes we manipulate in the data so heavily so it's going to fit to the pattern we need it,
Mhm.
just so we can continue the building. And then somebody comes and is like, but hold on, the color is not the same. I can notice it, and this is not the original brick.
Mhm.
And then what do we do with it? And I think that this is really we go a lot of this direction of, at the end of the day, we trust it. We want this construction to sustain what we want to do with it, and
Mhm.
we need it to look good at the end of the day as well.
Mhm. So what do we do with this trust crisis? So in my case, I try to explain my son that this tool is useful. We just need to be mindful of its limitations. Do you also suggest the same, like when you speak with the CEOs that perhaps have these trust issues with the data? How do you convince them that we still need to rely on data?
I always say it's like, a lot of times when I arriving to companies, it's like this basketball team that everybody lost hope about, and they keep losing. They know they have the capabilities and the right people to actually pull the season and make it successful. The owners are already frustrated, the fans are frustrated on them, and they're just in this slow moment. And I think that what we need to do is much better communication. So what I realized is that the default of a lot of us is to go into tools. Okay, so now we
Mm,
need to have a monitoring tool. Now we need to have a new governance system to do the catalog and the lineage and so on and so on. And we keep extending tools instead of actually stopping for a second, stepping backwards. And this is where we're going to this mindfulness, right? And reflect on why we have the crisis issues of losing trust. What are the main drivers of it? Is it specific products? Is it specific things? How do we actually creating the right environment for us to reflect and understand? And I think that this is something that we are missing a lot. And this is also something that's going to help the CEOs to understand where the problems are. Because when we're coming and saying, okay, we need now a new tool, most of the CEOs freaking out already. It's like, why they need another tool now? I'm already paying 500,000, 1 million, $2 million on the data team, and now adding another tool to it, it's another 100,000 or 200,000 on overheads. What is actually the end goal of it? How do we actually create something? And I think again, this is here coming to why we're creating this crisis, because we don't communicate clearly. We don't really prioritize and clarify what is important, what not. And we don't talk the language of impact. So if we're saying and we think that a data quality tool will be important and going to help us, then why and how it's going to basically impact the business goals? It's going to improve the stability of the marketing data. so they will be able to make better decisions and steer the budget. By that, we're going to save between 20 to 50,000 euros a month on marketing campaigns that basically wasting our money. We're already talking a monetary value. We're having a different conversation, and now people also looking at it now as not as a trust issue, but more as communication a gap. And now let's see how we can figure this one out. We should get out of the crisis. We should get out of the chaos. We should ride the chaos and flow with it, accept it, and continue there.
To me, it sounds a bit like a little abstract. Do you have some maybe example to make it more concrete? Let's say we have this trust crisis, but then you were saying that, yeah, we don't necessarily need another tool. We need to think what is important, what is not important. We need to take a step backwards. Do you have an example of a situation where, how to say, like I'm just trying to visualize this, and having a concrete example will help to understand it better.
Think about, let's say, the core KPI dashboard for the management. They need to have it on a daily basis to understand how the operation of the business goes.
Let's say if this is a company, an e-commerce company that, I don't know, is selling shoes, that could be the number of sales.
For example, not related to the other company.
Not related to any companies where you worked.
But the core principle here is this dashboard existing there, right? And the management needs to use it. And when there is lack of trust, what happens in many of these organizations is that the CEO goes to the CFO and asks him, are the numbers correct? Can I trust them? Then the CFO goes to his analyst.
Numbers
they validate
are,
the
like,
numbers.
sorry for interrupting you, the numbers, revenues, sales, right?
Stock availability, and so on and so on. So all of these things. And the CEO does not have the time to start and supervise it, right? And this is why this crisis starts. Because if he needs to check, or they need to check every day, basically, are the numbers correct, yes or no? Can I actually look at them and make decisions based on them? Or should I second guess myself? And this is the main case, right? So we have this core KPI. We want to make sure that it's getting corrected and arriving right to the owners of it, or to the users of it, to the data consumers. And what we need to check here is, like, what will make it better? If we're investing in an extra tool, if we checking actually where the issues are in the pipeline, in the lineage part of it. Is it in the beginning of the pipeline? Is it at the end of the pipeline? Is it in the middle? So something in our SQL code is broken when we computing the data into the dashboard. Is it something that happens in the ingestion because one of the teams is not ingesting the data correctly? And we need to start to be much more aware of these patterns, because the solution of a tool is the easy one, but it's going to take us now into implementation process of 6 to 8 months. While it could be that we're going to identify that our product team is ingesting the wrong data on a daily basis, and each day they're changing something in the data structure, which basically screwing the rest of the report going upstream, right, towards the dashboards. And this is when we're talking about data trust. This is how it's happening most of cases. It's not because the tool is not functioning, it's because some components in the process are failing, and we are not aware enough on how to fix it or what to do there. And we're thinking as a default to go to a software. Maybe we rebuild the pipeline. Maybe we're going to bring now a monitoring tool on the ingestion data. And this is the easiest solution in my eyes. This is not the core solution of building the trust, because still the CEO, when you're going to arrive in the morning and going to look at this dashboard, he will not trust it because he already had a bad experience of trusting it and figuring out it's not trustworthy. And then we need also
why this question in the first place? Why the CEO asks the CFO if the numbers are correct? Because the numbers look strange, or because there were some problems in the past where the numbers turned out to be not correct?
Oh, there are many cases. So there is enough that one of the teams came with their own numbers. So marketing department were presenting different numbers than what is on the main dashboard or the core KPI dashboard. And he already created the crisis, right? This is one case. The other one is that the CEO used the numbers and figured out that they were wrong because somebody notified him after a month that the numbers he showed to the investors were not connected to the reality. And actually it was completely fake story, what he was telling. there is a lot of cases, and I encountered a lot of them, and I think that this is what a lot of us as data people, we sometimes we tend to see it and understand it, but we don't act fast enough
Mhm.
on how to solve it and how to make people feel more trustworthy with what we're
Mhm.
serving them.
So the situation is the trust is already lost. The CEO is already doesn't believe that the data is correct, right? And we need to have something to do
Yeah,
something
yeah. Let
there,
me
right?
ask you that. Somebody give you now a dashboard about your podcast listeners.
Yeah.
Will you automatically believe it, or will you go validate the data and make sure that the data is correct?
Um, so when I see this in Spotify, I automatically believe it because there is no other way for me to get this data. I have the only data source for this. So like, having a number is better than having no number. So I just automatically believe the Spotify data.
This is the easy solution, the
Yeah.
pragmatic way of doing it, right? But if you're running a business, you want to make sure that the numbers you have actually can create the right impact. So when you're going, for example, let's take the podcast, when you're going to advertisers, you want
Hmm.
to give them numbers that going to make them say, oh wow, it's worth for me to invest in this, it's worth for me to actually put money on
Yes.
advertisement. And I think that this is the important part, and this is also for the CEO, because when he goes to his investors, to the people who put the money, he needs actually to explain to them, yes, the business is working well and is functioning in the right direction, so don't cut your investment, because even if you got promised for, I don't know, 80 million investment, you're getting it in chunks, right? Based on milestones that you achieve.
Hmm.
And here is exactly the point of where you need to be able to say the right numbers, or believe the numbers that you are saying to people, because otherwise you're also going maybe to the line of fraud,
Hmm.
if you're not reporting the right numbers. So there is a lot of small nuances, and this is why the CEO at the end of the day will ask always the CFO to validate the numbers and see this is
Hmm.
matching to what we actually have in the bank or not.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Because otherwise auditors come and then they close the company, right?
Yeah, it's going to end up very bad. So there is even a case now, I think, in the US of a CEO that was reporting sales numbers that were 10 times more than what they actually were selling. It
Mhm.
was an issue in the database. They discovered it at some point that somebody was just multiplying it by a 9 comma something. I don't remember already how
Mhm.
much it was. Uh, and he kept reporting on it, because even after they discovered it, he said, I cannot go back now with the numbers that I reported,
Mhm. Okay. So the
because I already communicated,
CEO knew about the mistake and continued to report inaccurate data.
because he didn't have a solution for this. But this is one case which is very bad, and we should not go this direction. But when the CEO discovers now that his data was multiplied by 9.7 or by 10
Mhm.
even, he will need to go to the investors and explain it to them. And he needs also to feel secure enough to explain why we didn't find this error before, what are we doing now to avoid this error going forward, and how
Mhm.
we actually making sure that we're reporting the real numbers going forward. And this
Mhm.
also may be some application on the investment for the future.
Okay, so how do we regain trust?
How to regain the trust? So it's best of all, one of the things that I'm always saying is by having a very mindful approach to going and dealing with data. It's to understand, basically have a much better control on what we are doing. As I see it, it's going towards three main components that we're doing day to day. We're doing maintenance, we're doing rollout of products, and we're doing innovation of products. And in each of them, basically, we need to think about the end user. So, who is the data consumer and what they need to receive? What is the most easy way for us to bring them the first reports or first data to already look at and understand if this is what they need or not? So, what is the MVP looks like for us? And then it's basically to work together with these users long term, understanding basically during the maintenance time, where are the issues coming from? How often is it happening? What are the root causes of this? And having a much deeper understanding. So we're doing data incidents, right? Many teams have data incidents today, and how to handle basically when something is breaking. But how many organizations actually taking these data incidents and putting them into a huge machine that tells them, okay, we identified that these 3 core products producing 60% of your incidents, or 70% of your incidents, or even 40% of your incidents. And once we discover this, what are the root causes of these incidents? So is it something that keep repeating? And then you are easier to actually solve these issues because you know where it happens, you know where how often it happens, and you can communicate it to everybody. Look, what are you doing? 60% of the issues are coming from your team, and this is the impact of them. This is what we're actually losing by not fixing it or not correcting it for once and for all. And this is why we need your investment. And this is something that then easier to align the entire company or not, because you're creating a shared reality. These numbers, this is not any longer, I feel that the dashboard is being broken because of you. It's because you are the root cause in the last 15 incidents for the data not arriving correctly to the CEO. So let's figure out now how we can solve it, because he is not having the data means that we may lose the next investment of the 20 million euros that we're supposed to have to run this company. This is already numbers that actually going to make people start working with you. This is one part. The second part is to solve it for the CEO at the end of the day is to receive a dashboard or even an easy dot on the top of his dashboard, which is with colors: green, yellow, red. When it's green, you can trust the data. Everything is great. We haven't identified anything that has an issues. When it's yellow, please wait for us. You can use the data, but be aware that it may have an issue. And when it's red, everything is broken. Don't touch it. Don't trust the data.
Oh,
This
that's
is
interesting.
already moving the communication from he asking you if the data is correct to telling him the data is not correct right now, or to tell them, hold, wait for me to come and I will explain to you what's going on.
So
And
let's say if we sell shoes and we have different apps, like for Android, for iOS, for web, and then whatnot, I don't know, post mails. So then all of a sudden we realize that our tracking on iOS is broken because like we report more views than there are. So what we do is we go to the dashboard and flip. We go from green to yellow, right? And
correct.
then when the CEO looks and sees that they see, he or she, it's yellow, and automatically they know that they don't need to, they cannot fully trust the data. They can still make some some decisions, but there are some problems that are being fixed, and they know it, right?
Correct. So this is a very easy solution to give them the ability to actually realize where the issues are. And we're flipping the conversation. And once we are actually telling them, listen, the status is yellow, they know that something is wrong, and we are looking at it because we also see that it's yellow, and this is a communication that have been done correctly. Now we can give an update after we observed and we checked if actually the suspicious was right or wrong. And if it's was wrong, we can turn it into green. We can basically overwrite the yellow, move it to green. If we are still suspecting it's wrong, we can move it to red and then figure out until we fix it, giving them the estimation of the fix, what we have identified, and now how we're fixing it. I think that a lot of the things that I realizing, the more I talk to people, the more I talk to data teams in the past year and a half, the issue is not with the technology itself. It's not with having a DBT or Presto or Trino to process your data. It's not about having Snowflake or Snowplow or Tableau or Locker. It's about the communication. And this is our biggest gap right now. We are communicating it completely wrong. We allowing many times to the teams that using the data to find the errors in the data, because we keep saying they know best their data. So if something is broken, they will come to us. But what is it actually causing them? They don't trust the data. They keep checking it. They're investing time in testing the data. Think about, in average, I saw teams that investing between 2 to 3 hours on validating data on a daily basis. This is instead of them working on optimizing campaign or checking what next on the feature list for release. Instead of it, they're sitting down and checking data and making sure that the data is correct. But if they know best what and how their data should look like, they can also give you the patterns. So you can
Yeah.
build them this easy traffic light.
So imagine a scenario where an analyst is doing their job. I don't know, maybe there is a task and they need to do some analytics, but they see that there is some discrepancy, right? So they can flag it to the, I don't know, product manager saying, hey, look, something is off. I don't know what it is. I need to take more time to investigate it. But then the team can, the data team or whoever is maintaining the dashboard can immediately go from green to yellow, saying that there is potential discrepancy. We're looking into it. And when the analyst comes back with more concrete examples where it's off, then you can see, okay, like, should we go to red? Should it stay yellow until the team fixes, right? Something like that. If there is this communication channel, if the analyst knows who to approach when some
Correct.
discrepancies are found, then we have this communication channel. Then we can report to the high level, to people who actually rely on this data, that something is off. Don't completely trust this data yet. We're investigating the problems.
Correct.
Does it?
And
This is how it looks in practice, or you have seen some other ways of setting this up?
I saw a lot of ways of automation. So this is what I'm talking a lot with teams about, how to actually automate this process. So taking the learnings from the analyst who is checking the data and creating an automation system that's creating logs. At the end of the day, when we're ingesting data, we're getting logs, we can analyze them, right? So we can store them into a Postgres SQL server, very easy, very simple, and then scan them once a day. If something doesn't fit to what we see as a trend, for example, in the last 7 days, something has happened, we can already flag this stuff. And then there is the analyst who can do the deep dives because they really the experts inside this data. And they can come and say, okay, I suspect that something is wrong. It's green, but I'm thinking it still should be yellow. And we're able to do it. But at the end of the day, you're communicating in a very easy system for everybody to understand because it's not speaking a tech language. It's not, nobody cares at the end of the day in the data consumer side if it's something that got broken in the pipeline or in it's a certain tool that is not working because they don't understand it. For them, they just need the data, and this is what they care about, and this is what we need to simplify for them as well. And the same thing goes with whenever there is a data incident, they don't care about the backend of how things are being resolved. They just know that it needs to be resolved. But here again, we have an issue because if we need now, for example, we had loss of data for 2 weeks and it's going to cost us 200,000 euros, we need to be able to communicate it. We need to be able to actually also explain it to the people on why now it's going to cost us an extra 200,000 euros to recompute the data and refix it if needed. And I think that there is a lot. This is the biggest gap that I've identified in a lot of my talks. It's the communication, it's the transparency, and it's less about the tools themselves and how we are using them.
And I imagine if this is a greenfield project, if this is a project we're starting from scratch, knowing things we discussed, we can add this traffic light immediately from the very beginning. We need a dashboard with KPIs of this product, so we put the traffic lights there immediately from the start, and it's good, right? So we already have this in mind. But in many cases, in the majority of cases, there is already an existing product, existing dashboard, and already existing trust issues. So what do we do there?
We need to start figuring out the patterns. So this is I think one of the things that I'm looking at is also the stress level of the team. So how much they spending their efforts or their focus on the 3 components that I mentioned before: the maintenance, the innovation, and the rollout. Because what happened is, if we're starting it correctly, the maintenance, basically it's all the product that existing today and working and being used by users. But then we need to have a process that we are able to supervise what tickets are being created, what are the patterns of these tickets, when do we handle it, how do we prioritize it. Maybe there are some products that keep having issues and we should deprecate them because it doesn't make sense anymore to hold them, and we can maintain this one. When we're rolling out a new product, when we innovate it, we roll it out. Now we have more users coming in. We need to make sure that the traffic light is in there. And with the maintenance part, we're really going to the core of how many bugs, how many issues are there, start identifying and starting building basically the system. We can go historically. So I hope a lot of teams storing the tickets that they have for support. and they can go historically start accumulating from the JIRA and see what's going on there. And if not, it's not too late to start now. Give yourself 60 days or 30 days, and you already have a balance also to understand how well is product working, where are the issues, and what you need to flag. So it's already giving you a very good indication.
You're talking about the data team stress index, right?
This is part of it as well, yes.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm just trying to understand how to implement this in practice. So we have these three things teams spend time
3
on:
areas.
maintenance, rollout, innovation. And as a former data scientist, I imagine that people mostly want to spend time on innovation and not really on maintenance or rollout. At least for a data scientist, rollout is like, what is that like? I want to be out. Maintenance, okay, there is a bug in the code that I wrote. Perhaps I have to fix it, right? Okay, like this is
Yeah.
something I can accept, right? But rollout is, yeah, doesn't sound very fun, right?
None of
So
them is fun.
still, this is something that has to happen, right? And would you say stress index goes up when it's just maintenance, rollout, constant battles like firefighting, and little innovation? Or how do
So
you?
the reality is that maintenance is much higher than what people think. And this is driven by several things. We keep releasing new products, and in many cases, we're ignoring the maintenance of this product. So we don't think about what's going to happen after we released it. And this is why I identify these three key areas that we need to work on. When we're talking about maintenance, a healthy maintenance will be around 45% of your day. So anybody who listen can go and now check how much they're actually investing in maintenance. And when I talk about maintenance, it's bug fixes, ad hoc requests, even meetings can be a disruptors that happen. And this is the three main areas there and how you're handling it. Then we're talking about the innovation, which is the arm that basically making you go forward, so moving always forward. Reality is that most teams investing between 10 to 20% of it. Some teams investing 30%, but it's unclear for them, for example, how much they have to invest because the maintenance keep disrupting them. It's keep coming
Mhm,
in and basically pulling them up from the innovation process. And then the rollout part of it is closing this loop, right? So you innovated, you created something, you need to make sure it's actually arriving to the users. It's not only a hit the definition of done of the project, it's actually being used by them and it's being liked by them. And I think this is something that we sometimes tend to ignore, and we
mhm,
should also include it inside our thinking. And this is basically how these three components connect to each other. And a team that has about 45% maintenance, they're already in a stress area. Now add to it
mhm,
the new innovation or initiatives that they need to achieve still. You bring them to a very high stress levels that are unable to actually compete or complete basically, sorry, to complete the task that they have in hand because they are stuck. They are stuck in maintenance. Maintenance keep pulling them back and stopping them from going forward. And if you're releasing a product that is innovative, so as you said in data science, and I had a beautiful case of it. So we launched a beautiful forecasting for marketing. Okay, so what is going to be the user value? You know, CLV, everybody loves it. And the team were releasing it. They said, "Yeah, it's great, it's working. We can move backwards now." They gave it to the marketing team. They gave it to the product team. They started using it, and at some point, you know, the model started to break,
mhm,
but nobody checked who are the users and how to use it. Nobody understood what is the use case. Is it actually fulfilling the product itself, the CLV that we just built, the forecasting, and nobody was maintaining it in the long term. And this is exactly the problem. This is where the chaos starts and everything collapsing and crumbling. And if we are not aware of it, we won't be able to handle it. And when it explodes, it's too late to fix sometimes, even because
mhm,
we know how it is, right? If somebody lost trust in your model completely, you will need to work really, really hard to climb back and make them trust it.
mhm. Okay, so from what you said, one of the important things I took a note of was that a healthy, and the important word here is healthy, the healthy level of maintenance is 45%. Because if you just innovate all the time, you don't have time for maintenance, you just keep releasing products. and then you don't fix problems in these products because,
Correct.
well, we all know it's not fun to fix problems. It's more fun to create new things. But yeah, we need to take care of the existing things too. And if all we do is innovate, and of course, like there are bugs, there are problems, there are inconsistencies, the data is not perfect, and this is something we need to deal with. Otherwise, we will lose trust. But then if we start spending more and more and more time on maintenance, then we cannot innovate anymore. And then it's another problem.
Correct.
Right. Okay, clear. And actually, the very first question that I have in the list of questions, which I think we completely diverged from this list. It's always fun to see like how the list of questions and the actual questions at the end turn out.
Leading us.
Anyways, but like you describe yourself as a data Zen master. So what are these Zen principles? Did we talk about them already?
We
Because we
covered
talked about mindfulness, right? But like in practice, what do you actually do? Like how do you achieve Zen when it comes to all these problems that we talked about? Like how do you make peace with yourself and the teams around?
So we talked about the Wabi Sabi, right? The concept of
Yeah.
this imperfection, and I think this is the key concept that I bring to a lot of the teams, because we need to accept the reality that whatever tool you innovate and you're rolling it out is not going to be perfect in the long term. It's going to be, at some point, it's going to be imperfect. And I think it's talking about a lot of being aware of what you're doing and the impact of it, and what is the long term and the short term actions that you need to do. It's a lot about planning a direction. So there is a journey that we're walking through, having a vision for the next 3 years, how the data ecosystem going to look like. Understanding that while we committed now to innovate this year 50 new initiatives, we're not going to be able to achieve them because we're going to be disrupted by different parts. And I think this is a lot about taking the mindfulness into our conversation, into the acceptance of it's not going to be perfect. It's not about the teams becoming now all chill and relaxed and everything is great and meditation. This is not the point.
The data is
The,
wrong, but like, what can we do?
yeah,
We
we
just
are
have to
just here.
accept
We are just here for the paycheck, you know.
it. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
about
it's broken, but yeah.
we have a lot of options to handle it. But the idea behind it is really to come and say, we are aware of it. We know that there is a certain, I will give you the best example, okay? My grandma, may she rest in peace, used to make this amazing strawberry cake. Now, the strawberry season is around 1 month, month and a half, more or less, no more than that. And her work was used to be around 3 days to prepare the cake. Whenever the cake was ready, she used to serve it to the table. Me, my cousins, my family, everybody were there. But she always used to tell us, listen, you need to hold yourself. You need to slice it correctly. Make sure everybody receive a piece. So there is no case somebody ending up not receiving a piece. You need to make sure that you're enjoying the bites, because this is something that not going to repeat anytime soon. You will need to wait for next year. I'm not freezing strawberries. I'm using only fresh strawberries for this cake. And this is part of this experience of the data teams, that they need to understand we have a certain cake of hours we can invest. We need to make sure that we're slicing it and giving the right impact to the organization. But at the same time, we're also enjoying it on the process and not in a constant burnout mode. I need to achieve this. I need to run there. I need to do that. You know, like crazy, always high. And we should not always be like, yeah, what we can do, it's always broken. This is not the right cake. You need to enjoy this, right? You need to enjoy the cake, the strawberry cake. We talked about cooking, so I needed to do it. I'm sorry.
Mhm. Yeah, there is
But
no way around with you. Like
yeah.
it's always cooking. But does Wabi Sabi to have anything to do with cooking?
Sorry again.
Because Wabi Sabi sounds like wasabi.
It sounds
Does
like,
it?
but it's not. It's just a concept of imperfection. It's a way of accepting the reality as is, and basically riding or keep the flow running.
Okay.
Accepting, enjoying the seasons, going outside and looking at the seasons. And this is exactly the same thing that we need to do with data. We need to go there, accept that it's not going to be perfect, but whenever it's there, we should enjoy it as much as possible
Hmm.
and continue flowing and continue the movement.
Hmm. You live in Berlin, right?
Outside of Berlin a little bit, but
Outside
yes.
of Berlin. So in Berlin, people, if they want to swim in the sea, they go to the north, the Baltic Sea, and
Correct.
it's super cold.
I'm
But
not
there is
going there.
no other sea. You're not going. Yeah, so I was thinking like there's no other sea, so like you either enjoy this one or you don't enjoy the sea at all. Or yeah,
Correct.
you can fly quickly, right?
But the idea is that there is data, and people need to use the data. This is not going to change. On the contrary, now when we're talking about all of these LLM models, we're talking about Gen AI, the demand for data going to increase massively. We already see it. While a lot of teams trying to hide it, is like, no, 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 we don't do anything with automation. We don't use data. And it's because of the fear of garbage in, garbage out. The reality is that we will need to actually fix these issues, and we won't be able to fix it until we're not going to arrive to the awareness of where the problems are and how to fix it. So this is for me like being mindful about the data, being in the zen when it's coming to it. It's not the religion, it's the philosophy that comes with it.
And one of the things you mentioned is when we were talking about these Wabi Sabi principles, that you accept that the tool, the product, the dashboard, whatever, is not perfect. And let's say you make an MVP, you say this is how it might look like. It's not perfect, that data might be off, but you also have a long-term and short-term plans for, okay, if this project continues to exist, this is how we're going to improve. This is the short-term plan. This is the long-term plan. But how do you know what's good enough? How do you know when the thing we want to show is ready to be shown? That yes, we don't have complete trust in the data we have, but it's actually good enough to make some decisions now. Like when do we know this? How do we know this?
We know it when we're measuring impact. And this is why
Okay.
I said it's not the spiritual way of like, it's going to be what's going to be, but it's actually by measuring impact of whatever we build. So if the MVP is already supplying value, so the ROI is maybe still negative, but it's getting towards the positive side, we already did something good. In the long term, what we're expecting it, as you mentioned, it's like it's a data product, right? So we're going to have iterations that we keep developing it. It has a life cycle. We starting with the development part, which will be most likely in a negative ROI. Then we have the rollout, when we actually introducing it to the people getting to know it slowly. The ROI should get improved from negative towards the breaking even or towards the positive even. Then at some point it arrives to maturity because people are using it, people like it. It's actually creating value for them. And this is basically where we should be very happy with this position, and we should maximize it as much as possible. Need to be aware that it's going to create disruption, but we are able to handle it. And at some point, this product's going to arrive also to decline because it's not producing anymore the value that we wanted. So the ROI is dropping down slowly. The user satisfaction goes down. And this is where we need to be aware more on this may be the time to kill it and try something new.
Mm-hmm.
But the MVP itself, if it's produced value, and we're talking about value, and when I'm talking about value, it could be cost optimizations. So it saved us X amount of hours that translate to this amount of money. It can be we saved some infrastructure that we are running. It whatever it's saving you cost or generating revenue. So, for example, if you created now a new recommendation engine for our users, so we're talking about data science, right? And this model improved the conversion by 2.5%. This is what it's worth for us. So it's already, we are able to quantify the revenue value of this data product. And we can also forecast from this point what we're expecting it to create an impact in the long term if we're going to keep working on it and model it and improve the model. So we're going to reduce the cost, we're going to increase the revenues, and the efficiency will become much better and much clearer for us.
I think in the example you gave a few minutes ago, it was like, I think customer lifetime value prediction or
The
something like
CLV,
that.
yeah.
Sorry, what?
CLV, yeah,
CLV. Yeah. I think at some point there was this, all the stages that you described. Um, like development, early adoption, like maturity, decline. I think it went through all of them, right? Because at the end,
Correct.
people stopped trusting it and they thought, okay, like, yeah, we don't want to use it anymore. But at the beginning, I guess it was already when you knew it was good enough, when you could show a prototype to a user and they could say to the user of this prototype, and they could say, okay, now I can actually make an action based on the output of this thing.
Correct. Correct.
And in more cases, in most of the cases, the suggestion would lead to a positive ROI kind of action, right? Even though sometimes it might not be correct, but
Not
overall,
always.
yeah.
There were cases where I saw models that people said, yes, it's what I need. And the ROI at the end of it was negative because the cost of producing it was higher than the cost of
Okay, makes sense.
it was higher than the revenue it was bringing in. And at this point, you need to evaluate, is it making sense to keep the model or not?
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about the CLV before, it went through the maturity. So it was creating this value. It was bringing, we said, okay, it's making sense, but it's also made sense because we stopped maintaining it. So we didn't invest new efforts in optimizing it, in fixing it, in correcting the model. And this way it arrived also to the decline. And this the same thing goes with any other product that we're launching, right? At some point, if we don't keep maintaining it and keep listening to the people around us and aware of what they need and what are the issues they see, they're just going to drop us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that we have quite a few questions from the audience. Do you need to go now or you have a bit of time?
We can continue. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. So there is an interesting one, and I think I kind of asked you partly a little bit about that. So what do you recommend when the problem starts on a database from a legacy monolith application that continues to be the core of the business? And I think the question I asked you at some point was like, okay, it's all cool with greenfield projects, but what about existing projects?
Yeah.
Like when it's already broken, but there is nothing else. Like how do we approach this case? How do we solve trust issues? And how do we find the root cause?
So in legacy system, this is my favorite thing to look at. I was in an organization a few months ago that I will give. This is a great case. So they had a legacy system that was automating for them the campaign steering. So they were steering the entire budget based on some automation system that was built by someone who already left the company, and it started to crack and make issues. And the replacement team that arrived after he left tried to maintain it, but it didn't work out for them. And the case that we created together was, let's figure out actually what is the cost of these errors. And let's now create a case instead of keep fixing it to stop accepting the reality of where the product is right now and the errors. We're going to do the minimum maintenance that we need to do. And let's build something new that's going to replace it that we can actually move forward. And I think this is exactly the problem of legacy systems. A lot of them, it's basically debt that we're carrying with us, and we're trying to survive with it. But at some point, we should say we stop it. And this is something, for example, that I did also at Zalando when I arrived. We had this Python script that was requiring six people to copy paste manually on a daily basis data from different Excel sheets into a main Excel sheet, that this Excel sheet then used to be going into the Python, being processed. It was a huge operation that didn't work out. And we said, at the end of the day, the value that it's producing right now is very low because the issues that we keep having were causing a case that it was available only once a week instead of a daily basis it's supposed to. So why do we keep fighting and keeping this one working and running and not just stop it and say we don't touch it anymore? We're building something else to replace it, and we're making sure that it's giving the similar value or even higher value than what we had before. So it's much easier. And this was our approach at Zalando back then, that instead of it, we built the data warehouse. We stored all of our data on a PostgreSQL. I remember it was a beautiful thing with simple APIs that were pulling the information, and then we put it into Tableau. And instead of people now having a very heavy Excel sheet that they cannot run the pivots on it, they had a drag and drop dashboard. People were going crazy. And this is exactly the thing that we need to think about also when we're doing it. What is the impact or what is the added value that we're going to give to the users if we're moving from a legacy system and this is how you're selling it. This is the selling point.
Yeah, the problem with legacy systems is they kind of work and they work well enough, but sometimes they get broken, and when they get broken, you have no idea how to fix them.
And or
And
somebody's fell in love with this legacy system and refused to move out of it, right? This is another
yeah,
case.
that could be,
Uh,
yeah, like a genius wrote this overnight, but then they don't remember anything, but they still are proud of them writing it.
Correct. So we need to find the right balance, but at the end of the day, really, we need to think about impact, impact, and impact. What is the impact of it? Communicate this bad impact, communicate the possible better impact by the replacement, if we
Mhm,
summarizing it, and then go ahead and make sure that the new impact is much higher and much better than what we have right now,
mhm. Another
which is not
question
always
is,
easy.
yeah, thank you. Another question is, how do you handle ad hoc requests from the executives?
Say no. No, I'm joking. With executive, it's really there is here a double thing that you need to understand. The first one is why they need it and what is the core idea behind the ad hoc request, and then the second part, what is the impact that they're expecting to have. You cannot always say no to executive, and you should not. But you should come to them and tell them, listen, if I need to do this ad hoc request, these are the initiatives that are going to be postponed or going to be pushed back. This is the impact or the value they're planning to bring to the organization. Does it actually make sense? It's changing the conversation drastically. So this is what I noticed with a lot of teams that I worked with in the past. When they started talking to the CEO in his language or in their language, sorry, the CEOs started to react to it, because when you're coming to them and you tell them, listen, if I'm doing now your ad hoc request and it's going to take me 5 days, this is what it's pushing back. Are you okay with it? If yes, everything is great. And I will tell you that most CEOs will say no. And my ad hoc is not that important. Just continue your work, because something else is going to create a bigger impact. But we need to quantify, we need to have a monetary value.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. And then the last question for today. So you mentioned you started with analytics. I think you actually started with development, then you moved to analytics,
Mhm.
then to product. But the question is, do you have any tips to understand if I am more suited for analytics or I'm more suited for engineering?
I think it's a lot of personal feeling, where you're feeling more comfortable with and what you're feeling comfortable with. So I see when I'm looking at it, the engineers was about the solution. I enjoyed solving something, and this is something I did not enjoy. Don't tell anybody, but this was not the core of my fun. Okay, this is the problem, just solve it. I enjoyed more from the problem space. As an analyst, you're receiving a problem, you can help to refine the problem, but you still need to supply a solution. In the product perspective, what you expected is to actually define the problem, define the scope of the problem, and then refine it to the engineers and give it to them. So how will you solve it? And then refine again the problem based on their feedback. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is what you need to think about. Where you enjoying more, this problem space or the solution space, and then figure out in the solution space, for example, what are you enjoying more to do, to work with the problem and trying to show or explain the problem, or you're enjoying more to solve the problem itself.
Mm. So it's about the mindset that like what you like more. So
Mm-hmm.
if yeah, I think I'm an engineer. Always have been. Like I tried to become a product. I took courses, like I mentioned, this mind the product workshops. But the funny story, so I took a nano degree on Udacity about product management. And then one of the parts or one of the modules there was about all the Scrum things, like all the processes in the
Mm-hmm.
team. And then I asked my product manager, "Is it really what you do?" And he said, "Like, yeah, all day long." Like, okay, I don't want to do this. I'd rather just code. So it was a very useful course. Yeah.
It's giving you some perspective, right? And I think that there's a lot of engineers who's looking to move into product and vice versa. Uh, but the product perspective is really about the problem. It's to talk to the stakeholders, it's to understand them, it's to create the tickets, and then understand that you're creating 100 tickets, and out of them only 20 will be relevant in the next month. And again, mindfulness, acceptance. It's not going to work always.
Yeah.
While in the engineering, you also need to accept that some of the code not going to be accepted, but at least you're trying to solve the problem. And I think this is two different mindsets.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for spending a bit of extra time with us and answering the questions we got from the audience. Thanks a lot. It was lovely talking with you. So when you plan to write your third book after Wabi Sabi, you're always welcome to become a guest again. I'm really looking forward. So maybe not in like 3-4 years, but earlier. Yeah, and we will always need your advice on hummus. So there's no other way around.
Oh, love to.
Yeah. By the way, like speaking of hummus, so I mentioned at the beginning that I got this one from Reve, which you didn't approve, I understand. But like from any of the chains that we have in Berlin, is there any one that sells decent hummus, or you always need to go to like a restaurant to have one?
I still go to a restaurant because if you look at the ones in Berlin in the chains, most of them it's not only chickpeas inside it, and this is
Yeah,
one
there's
of the
some oil,
reasons.
right?
I prefer the pure one. But the easiest one is just buy yourself a can of chickpeas, which today you can find in Berlin, something you couldn't find 5 years ago in the chains, in the supermarket chains, and make it at home. Just cook it a little bit, add tahini, mix it, and you have something that you can already consume. It's not going to be great, but it's going to be much better than the one you're buying in any supermarket chain.
Okay, so next time we speak, I'll report on my progress with that.
Please do.
Thank you. Amazing speaking with you. Thanks everyone for joining us today and listening in. And see you next week.